When Alexander the Great reached India, he found a jewel as invincible as himself, or so the legends tell. Harder than stone or steel, it gleamed like the sun and could cut anything, while itself invulnerable. It soon joined the lightning of Zeus, the hammer of Hephaestus, and the girdle of Aphrodite in the list of divine equipment referenced by poets and storytellers, under the name Adamas. This meant that which conquers all, and was sometimes rendered adamant. From there, it was only a slight linguistic detour to its modern name, diamant, then diamond. In Hellenistic Greece, it remained with the gods and just about as mythical. To the east, though, diamonds were real, though they had their divine aspects in India, too. The Sanskrit word Vajra meant both diamond and thunderbolt, and as in Greece, it was the all-conquering weapon of the chief god Indra. The club that symbolized his power was and still is called the Vajra, and statues of Indra and other gods in ancient Hindu temples had diamonds for eyes. But earthly rulers of India got a share of the rare jewels as well. Medieval European and Islamic legends, including the Arabian Nights, would later claim that there existed a single valley of the diamonds where the precious stones littered the ground. It was supposed to be a deep ravine in the middle of a high mountain, and it was inhabited by serpents so venomous that no man could get close and live to tell the tale. The stories went on to describe how the local inhabitants flung chunks of raw meat over the cliff onto the valley floor so that the diamonds would stick to them. Eagles, or in the Arabic version, the legendary roc, would snatch up the meat and diamonds from the midst of the snakes and fly back up to their nests, whereupon the locals would climb up and retrieve the gems. Alongside this legend, Marco Polo gave a less picturesque but more accurate account of diamond mining in India around 1300. During the rainy season, the water descends in violent torrents among the rocks and caverns, and when it has subsided, the people search for diamonds in the riverbeds, where they find many. This was not, however, their original location. Diamonds are an arrangement of carbon atoms that requires either incredible pressure or incredible cold to form, and as such, they are found in two places, the Earth's mantle or outer space. All known space diamonds are a few nanometers across, hardly enough for even a microscopic engagement ring. But diamonds can grow to large sizes in the Earth's mantle, and sometimes they make it to the surface in a sort of geologic high-speed train called a kimberlite. This is a pipe-shaped jumble of rocks created when material from the Earth's mantle is suddenly blown almost 100 kilometers up through the crust at supersonic speed. Nobody quite knows why, but these eruptions seem to happen in the ancient, cold, thick parts of the crust found in places like interior Canada and southern Africa, and of course India, which for most of Earth's history was actually attached to southern Africa, but broke off during the Cretaceous and zoomed northeast, where it slammed into the Eurasian tectonic plate and rumpled up the Himalayas. Rivers running down through the Deccan Plateau eroded diamonds out of the kimberlite rocks and left them in stream gravel, where miners dug them up and separated them. This was much cheaper than mining serpent-infested valleys with eagles and raw meat. Unfortunately, Polo's few sentences are the earliest account of diamond mining itself, which by his time was at least a 1600-year-old industry in India. Sanskrit texts ranging from the 4th century BC to the 6th century AD show that the mining, trade, valuation, and use of diamonds was already well established in India when Alexander got there. By the time the Ratna Pariksha was written, diamonds were coming from at least 8 different mines and in numerous types, each of which had a particular shape, color, clarity, and deity associated with it. Each also had a different range of prices depending on its quality, and the Ratna Pariksha's author also helpfully suggested what uses are appropriate for the various types. Large or small, he says, a diamond with visible defects is useful only for lapidary work, engraving or polishing other gemstones. A woman who wishes to bear sons must wear a diamond only if it is flat, triangular, and featureless. If a large and perfect diamond is damaged while being mounted, it should not be given to the king, whereas the king who wears a diamond of perfect quality is invincible and can make himself master of all the lands around him. Given that they were viewed as both Indra's divine thunderbolt and an earthly superweapon, it's not surprising that the export of diamonds from ancient India appears to have been tightly controlled, if not forbidden outright. That was especially true of the stones whose quality, clarity, size, and color made them suitable for jewelry. A few small, poor-quality diamonds or diamond chips were being used for drilling and engraving other gemstones around the Persian Gulf from at least the 4th century BC, a practice that continued well into the Middle Ages and beyond. But the good stuff stayed closer to home. While the Sanskrit literature treats diamonds as something that an average upper-class woman should carefully select, for the Roman writer Pliny, they were the most highly valued of human possessions, known only to kings and to very few even of them. Even in the 3rd century AD, the Romans had only a few gem diamonds, most of which were in the eastern reaches of their empire around Syria, and most of those appear to have been the rejects from the Indian gem industry. All known examples are tiny and not of very high quality. The Indian diamonds found in ancient rings from Pakistan and Afghanistan hundreds of years before the Roman versions in Syria are actually larger and better. There are no written records of production, so we don't know exactly how long or how continuously the diamond mines of India operated. But diamonds themselves show up in India and surrounding areas from the last few centuries BC, and the Sanskrit texts describe diamond mining and merchandising as a major source of state revenue. There was as yet no diamond cutting. The earliest gem diamonds were just set in their natural octahedral forms. Over time, these became slightly embellished. At least by the early centuries AD, Indian jewelers began using small chips of low-quality diamond to polish the natural faces of the larger, high-quality stones, leading to a flatter and more reflective set of facets. This became known as the point cut, and it remained one of the most popular styles in India for many centuries. Since not much of the diamond had to be removed to make this, the point cut didn't waste material, and it led to rather large stones being preserved. The shape may also have been seen as the optimal configuration for transmitting the divine power of the diamond. Settings were often made so as to allow the lower tip of the octahedron to touch the wearer's finger. By the early centuries AD, the uses of diamond had spread from religious empowerment to include also personal ornament, judging by the spread of rings, earrings, bracelets, and anklets featuring point cuts. Over the rest of the first millennium AD, diamond jewelry seems to have remained popular among India's upper classes, while dynasties came and went and empires formed and fell. There is no evidence for anything other than the traditional point cut, and quartz was often ground and polished into octahedra as a cheaper substitute or, perhaps, a lucrative forgery. Some of the jewelry was worn, some of it was left in temples as offerings to gods whose eyes might have been larger diamonds still. But for all their abundance in India, the export of diamonds was still forbidden, and they remained rare and mysterious outside. Even in the Islamic world, which by the 9th century was getting quite close to India, only kings could afford even small diamonds. The scholar Al-Kindi recorded in the late 9th century that in spite of his royal connections, he had never seen one larger than a pine nut. Jewelry with small octahedral diamonds is known from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Southeastern Asia, but none reached Europe then or for centuries later. The diamond export ban was still in place in the 1200s, says a Muslim traveler, and only the small, low-quality stones used in lapidary work were exempted. Marco Polo similarly complained, "You must not suppose that the good diamonds are sent to Christians, for they are carried to the Great Khan and to the kings and chiefs of that country." India's diamond export ban, however, did not last much longer. Under the Hindu and Buddhist rulers of earlier days, diamonds had been the eyes of gods and the invincible weapons of kings. This connotation of power may have been what protected them from export. But in the 13th to 14th centuries, a series of invasions by Turkic armies brought large parts of India under the control of an entirely new set of rulers, mainly Muslim, who did not share in the culture that venerated diamonds as peerless divine armament. For these, diamonds were merely one ornamental gemstone among others. And in that view, the purpose of a diamond was to showcase a sultan's glory or to enlarge his treasury. With considerable encouragement from the new rulers, activity in the diamond mines soared. Most of it was concentrated in Golconda, where tens of thousands of workers dug gravel at each mine and washed it in baskets. Production hit its peak in the 1600s as the Mughal emperors and various reigning princes saw the gemstones as a way to enhance their power, prestige, and revenues. Not only did they collect a 50% excise tax on the grains, salt, and tobacco consumed in mining settlements, the largest and best stones were automatically royal property. Meanwhile, the miners toiled under harsh conditions for low wages and were searched upon exiting the worksite. Those caught stealing diamonds, along with their entire families, were sold into slavery, though one Dutch trader commented that given the labor conditions in the mines, this might actually have been an improvement. By this point, the Indian coastline played host to merchants from many nations, and they were starting to take an avid interest in buying diamonds. Europeans, in particular, were flush with money made from silver mined in Spanish America, and the invention of the caravel had enabled them to cut out the Islamic middlemen and sail straight to India. And now the diamonds they sought were available in more shapes than ever before. Besides the classical point cut, rulers liked to showcase their wealth with table cuts, formed by cleaving the top facet of the octahedron along one of the diamond's many planes of weaker than usual atomic bonding. This cut had originated probably in the 1500s, and by the next century it was soaring in popularity. The Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan adorned his throne with an enormous table-cut diamond in a rare pale pink color, so clear that its modern remnant is known as the Darya-i-Noor, or Sea of Light. From table cuts, technology and taste evolved to rose cuts, pear shapes, and finally the brilliant cut with no less than 58 facets in the later 1600s. This was the century when many of the world's most famous diamonds began their long and usually bloody histories. The Darya-i-Noor went to Persia in 1739 as part of the ransom paid by the Mughal emperors to the Persian Shah who had just occupied Delhi, and it's still part of the Persian crown jewels. On its journey, it was accompanied by the Great Mogul diamond, which was sold to a Persian jewel dealer who sold it to a Russian count named Gregory Orlov. He, in turn, gave it to Catherine the Great in an unsuccessful attempt to resuscitate their romance, and today it sits among the Russian crown jewels. Still more famous was the third great Golconda diamond taken by the Shah, the Koh-i-Noor, or Mountain of Light. Legend has it that this had once been the left eye of the Hindu goddess Bhadrakali in a temple in central India. After the Turkic invasions, it too made its way into the Mughal throne and was carried with it to Persia in the Shah's alleged 10,000 wagon loads of loot. One of his grandsons used it to buy the loyalty of the Emperor of Afghanistan. The grandson of that emperor, forced to flee to Lahore, surrendered the diamond to its Maharaja in 1813. When the British annexed Lahore later that century, they took care to annex the Koh-i-Noor too. At present, it is claimed as state property by the British, the Indians, the Pakistanis, and the Taliban. Even diamonds that were purchased rather than looted managed to obtain colorful histories. The French merchant traveler Jean-Baptiste Tavernier bought a blue diamond in Golconda in the 1660s, which he brought to Paris and later sold to Louis XIV. It was stolen during the French Revolution and turned up slightly recut in the hands of a British merchant just days after the 20-year statute of limitations on its theft expired. It was sold to a banker named Thomas Hope, who gave the Hope diamond its name. Afterwards, it passed through various British, Turkish, and American hands, along the way being blamed for every suicide, accident, mental illness, bankruptcy, and failed relationship that befell anyone in the same zip code. When a 45-carat deep blue diamond can't market itself, well, a historic curse makes a good addition. In the 1800s, the diamond mines of India were already nearing exhaustion when explorers in South Africa and Brazil found kimberlites with diamonds rivaling those from Golconda in size and quality. Diamond rushes ensued. The industry of what was by then British India collapsed, and other diamonds surged onto the market. Today, we can synthesize in the laboratory octahedral carbon allotropes as large and flawless as nature's best. But for 2,000 years, India was unrivaled as the land of diamonds.